this is my, yeah, see, like I said, this thing likes to mess up. Okay, so see the 624, then if I go here, these are the 3.
Or let's go the other way, sorry.
I think it might be having, like, this happened today too while I was like at work, and I have internet at work too. So I don't know if I'm just having,
Yeah, because I just resent it to you, and that's not the email I just resent you.
sorry.
No, that's okay. Here, we'll try it. Let's try it again here.
It's yes or no to everything tonight.
Here, we'll do this and. Oh, come on, you.
Why do I love you so much and hate you sometimes?
Okay, I'm gonna send you. Excuse me. I'm
But
gonna.
you did some like packet stuff, items earlier, right? Like last week.
I sent some. Yeah, so I did send some with just the attachments.
I think I should be okay with it. I found those 7 of those.
Okay.
So I should be okay with those.
Yeah, there's not. Try your email again.
Yeah, well,
I just sent the link to
you ever see me
to
driving
here.
around and the phone goes flying out the window. You know what happened. I didn't do it.
But yes, I can get you those numbers. And actually, I was like, would like to compare the two as well, because personally, I was kind of like to start looking into possible water losses that we might have. So to compare the two, what I send out versus what's going through the meter, I think we're really good information.
It would be. I think we're going to be asked about that with a few future projects too. So it would be nice to know.
Yeah, just I know there's loss out there. I don't know how much it's been looked at moving through the past, so it's just something I'm curious about.
Yeah.
If we can limit some of limit as much as we can. You're always gonna have some.
You ready?
Sure.
Battery level low.
Charge the internet. Oh.
It's one of those water project.
I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and I'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, we have a couple changes to the agenda. The interview that we were gonna have at 7:15 and then the one at 8 is not going to happen. They both, one is stuck on a water main break, and the other one I didn't get a hold of, and he was gonna try to make it up today, but he is working on a project as well, so we'll try to get those rescheduled for those times.
Do I need to let Sarah and Abby know on the one?
I guess it.
Okay. Thank you.
So as long as you're okay with, I think we'll do a little flexibility in the agenda tonight so that we can get through some of the stuff before we get into kind of the mundane type things. So if you're okay, we'll start with the reading of the minutes from the last meeting. Do you have a motion to approve, or if there's any changes?
There's no changes, I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Jason to approve the minutes. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item is the reading of the bills. There is one bill that they're gonna have to write a new check for on the Hillsboro Fire Department. 10 needs to come off of that.
Sorry, guys.
Told them to leave it, so.
They caught it.
So unless you have any other changes, do I have a motion to approve the bills?
I'll make the motion.
Jason makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Dave. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we'll hold off on the delinquent bills. So I think we'll go, the first time we'll have Steve with the sheriff's office come first. That way you don't have to sit here all night. If you want to come up to the podium, but, so I know we've been talking about the dog issues and for a while, and Jason and I had some ideas, and so all of us just need to hash it out and figure out what'll work best for everybody, so, and what the commission is willing to do. I know that Jason and I had talked about that our best option probably would be that we have our own city pound, which would be a temporary holding facility for the 72 hours that are required in our ordinance. And then from that point, they could be transported to one of the shelters that would be willing to take them. I think we have 2 to 3 that I reached out to that would be interested in it. And I know, Steve, that you were looking for a countywide solution, and I personally wouldn't have an issue if we did it countywide and had it where if Mayville or Hatton or any of the other ones had a dog that was there and needed to be impounded here, they would just need to cover the costs of the impound if the owner wasn't found. Thoughts on that, Steve?
You're right in respect that a countywide solution would be preferential to me, just because of what we're doing. Obviously, the county doesn't really have a dog. The way I read Century Code, if there's an issue in the county with dogs, whether they're running at large, whether they're aggressive dogs, whether just a nuisance, it's up to the person, the complaining party, to write a letter to the district court. They get sent, the owner gets sent a notice, if you can identify who the owner is. And on a second instance, then the owner gets fined. Actually, just summoned in court, it's up to the judge at that point what he's going to do with them. I was somewhat in favor of what you're talking about, the city, doing a temporary holding facility, but I did get some feedback, I guess, from one of the people in town that does a lot of work with dogs, that kind of stuff, humane society type stuff. And she had some real concerns about liability issues if the city were to do that. And I guess, that would be a city thing if you guys were willing to take that on. But I guess that would be a concern and something I would have to run by the county commission to see what their thoughts are as far as liability, what we're going to do that with. There is no easy answer, I'll say that. Just to bring you up to speed, I have been trying to work with Circle of Friends again. I think you guys have probably talked about that. And we all know they've had their issues lately, trying to come up with things. I know the city of Grand Forks is giving $30,000 to be their solution, and certainly we're not looking for that. We don't do enough animals for that to even be close to accurate. But, I think in the past, and I was looking for my file with Circle of Friends earlier, and I stuck it somewhere when I went up there to try to talk to them before all this stuff kind of hit the news. And I don't know exactly where I put it, so I gotta keep looking. But if I remember right, I thought it was $50 if we impounded somebody's animal that would get paid to Circle of Friends. That was a daily rate, $25 or $50 a day. Given their current situation, I don't know if that would be enough, and I don't know what a dollar amount would be feasible for the city, but if they would be willing to do that on an as-needed basis, to me, that would be the best solution all the way around. Not that I love the idea of taking a deputy off the road to take a dog up to Grand Forks, but in my my mind, that does two things. One, it relieves our liability issue, and it also makes that owner have to do a little something to get that dog back and be able to take better care of it. Those are my thoughts, I guess, right now. I wish I had some more hard and fast answers for you, but
But I think if Circle Friends is willing to, or somebody, that would be the best option.
that would definitely be the optimum. Again, the problem is pinning somebody down right now with their changes on their board. And as I understand it, the president of the board is right now acting as the general manager for Circle of Friends. I just haven't been able to contact with him yet. So, I guess given the opportunity, that's what I would like to do, is try to work with them yet and see if we can't solidify something. One thing that would be helpful is to know what the city would be willing to pay per day, and with the idea that, you know, if we identify an owner, that owner ultimately would be responsible for that fee back to the cities.
Great. And the only reason I looked outside was the other two places, and the ones that I had looked into didn't want to do that temporary storage. I did reach out to Ryan to see if the city would be liable and we would be covered under our insurance policy, so that all that liability would go under it. We'd have to work out the logistics on it, and how we were going to do it, but it would work that we could do it. But commissions, any thought on a dollar amount that we could? I know it's anywhere from 50 to, it's right around $50 a day just to house a dog at a kennel, so.
That's where I'm thinking, if they're gonna be willing to do it, we gotta be looking at probably $50 to $75 a day minimum.
Does that get billed to the person?
That would get billed to the city first, but then
Right.
the person would have to pay the city.
And if they didn't say they didn't get it, I assume, JR, that we could put it on with a tax lien if we needed to.
Sorry, someone texted me the mic's not working at the podium, so.
Yep, someone texted me too.
Is it turned on?
Yeah, we are.
And they said there's a
There's lights
ticking,
on.
and they said there's a
Ticking sound.
Yep.
That should make you feel good, Steve. People are concerned about what you're saying. They texted the meeting to make sure they heard what you had to say. Have you ever researched what other counties are doing or other areas?
I don't know that anybody else in our area anyway is doing anything. We did talk to Golden Valley County, and they've got an ordinance, basically it follows what Century Code says, and it's the right to let it to the judge thing. But again, we're kind of talking apples and oranges here, because the city has its own ordinance. That's what we're trying to work through as far as you guys are concerned. But as far as the county goes, it's different.
So you're saying that this circle of friends, or is that what it is?
Yep.
That they are uncertain whether they would take them, but if we guaranteed them that $50, whatever, they would take them?
I don't know that they would
Not
take
yet,
them,
okay.
I'm in hopes that that would be the case, that if we were able to pay them for the little bit that we would use them, they would be willing to do that.
How do they work, when somebody comes to pick up their dog, then how does that work? As far, they must have a fee that they charge them there too, or no?
I'm trying to remember what that contract said previously. I'm sure there was a fee that they had to pay there, and then if they couldn't show proof of vaccination, that kind of stuff, then they would also have to do that before the dog left. But aside from that, that's pretty much it.
And they wouldn't want to deal with that fee as far as what we have here, that guarantee. Or wouldn't there be any charge to
Well,
us if they pay it?
I think basically, do you remember that contract?
I don't.
believe the city pays Circle of Friends regardless, and then the city, it's incumbent on the city to go back to the owner to get that paid.
My concern
That's gonna
is
be a
those
tough
who are like strays or people who drop their dogs off on purpose.
It'd have to be where,
What about dogs that aren't picked up? What do they do with them? If nobody claims a dog, what kind of fee
Then
they?
it would be, if it's adoptable, then they would try to adopt it out. If it's not adoptable, then eventually, I don't know that Circle of Friends does euthanize.
I don't know.
I don't think they do.
I think it would have to be that, they'd have to be willing to, before they could release the dog, that bill would have to be paid by them, by that owner. And we would pay if.
I think the owner pays if they go pick it up. If nobody picks it up, then it comes on.
Then I would be okay, and I mean,
We try everything we can before we take them up there, because we don't want to lose the deputy off the road to start with. So, I mean, we're usually putting it on Facebook and making calls to everybody we can think of ahead of time to try to find where it belongs. But sometimes we just can't.
and that was the hope, was a temporary housing, so you guys didn't have to take somebody off the road right away. You know, if it's at 4 o'clock in the morning, there's only one deputy on, can we house it here temporary until?
And that's with the city taking care of all of that.
Right.
Because I definitely don't want to get in the business of maintaining the kennel. I mean,
No, it
if
would
we
be-
had a place where we could take it and put it in and we're done, then
That was my thought with it. I don't know with the rest of the commission, but I know that we'd have some people that would volunteer or, you know, be on an on-call basis to come up and take, as long as the sheriff's department notified that, hey, we put a dog in the kennel, it'll be in there for a few days or whatever until we can get it to the.
My concern is that the dog gets cared for, because I've seen some of these kennels where they'll just put them in a deal and then they'll give them water and food once in a while, but I don't want a dog sitting in there. And I don't want the sheriff's department to be responsible for it either, so.
But ultimately, if we don't do anything,
Well,
we're gonna keep having the issues that we're having, and people are complaining about it, so.
we're right now, it's up in the air what this, what do you call the kennel here, or what's the name of it?
Circle of Friends.
Yeah, that's up in the air. We don't even know what they're gonna do yet.
that's correct.
So, until we know what they're gonna do, unless you got other kennels that you're working with.
Like I said, those kennels will not take them until they know that they're adoptable. So we hold them for 72 hours as our rule, as the, what's in the ordinance, and if nobody picks it up within 72 hours, then the dog is adoptable. And they would be willing to take it off our hands at that point.
So you're saying the longest we would have to care for them is 72 hours? And you would have people that would volunteer to do that, or
There's
with
some
some
that
type
have
of
said-
stipend that they would do it?
Yep. I think we could do an on-call basis if we had to come to that route. So we have a couple options to work. We would have to spend some money to get some kennels put in some areas, but ultimately, when Ray was here, we had a place for that, kind of the same thing.
This is kinda irrelevant. How many dog complaints do we get in town in a month?
It's
Varies.
very hit and miss, but it seems like lately it's been quite a few.
Yeah.
And out of them, how many get claimed? Like over 90% all of them?
I would say.
I would say 85 to 90% would find the owners.
Are they repeats?
Usually, we've had a few dogs that we've had a hard time catching. And that's the other thing, how much time do we spend trying to catch a dog that is running around?
What do you do with them now? You just keep them at the office, or what do you? Until you find the owner.
Well, for a while, I had, we called it the playpen, it was the fenced
Oh,
area
sure. Mhm.
by the sheriff's office where the prisoners used to go out and do their outdoor rec.
Mhm.
We put them in there.
Mhm.
Now I've got a smaller crate,
Mhm.
that it's not a huge dog I can put it in.
Mhm. Okay.
Does this seem to be an issue just in Hillsboro, or is it like an issue in Trail County altogether?
That's an issue
It's
everywhere. I think.
everywhere, I'd say right now, Hillsboro's the hot spot for sure, but
Mhm.
it's, you know. And again, it's only in the cities where they have their own ordinance.
Yep. They said can hear everything better now when they're taking us out.
Good. All right. Well, I think, Steve, if we figure out if Circle Friends will work with us, then kind of go from there.
I'll continue working that, if you wanna, look in on your end of things, if that's the direction you decide you wanna go. We'll be flexible, like I said, I guess the only thing I would say is, I just don't wanna get in that end where we're maintaining the kennels and
No,
feeding
and that
the
wasn't,
water and that kind of stuff.
and that wasn't something that I was gonna work on. It would be, once you guys put it in the kennel, it's our responsibility to figure out what we're gonna
We
do.
can make a notification to somebody so you know they're there and
Yep.
you take it from there.
And that's if the commission wishes to do that, so I'll keep looking into it. But
That's what I had on that issue.
do you have anything else for us tonight?
The only other thing I can tell you is we're starting budget hearings right now. And no idea where that's gonna wash out, but as soon as we have something, Glenn will send that out, so you guys have an idea what we're looking at.
And you guys are getting close to being staffed again? On the deputy side, not on the dispatcher, or how's that?
Closer,
Closer?
closer. We still got a ways to go, but we're getting better.
As long as you keep vehicles coming and not get them wrecked.
Yes. That's all I had. Unless you guys have anything else.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
So the commission, are you guys okay with us keep looking at it to see if, as an option? So I said it'd be 72 hours max that we would ever hold, or thereabouts. I mean, if 72 hours came up at midnight, I don't think we're gonna haul them down in the middle of the night somewhere, but around that time.
I don't have a problem with, as long as we got volunteers that are gonna take care of these animals.
And that's part of it, is I didn't want to ask and officially say to the public who would be interested in helping until you guys gave a complete blessing on it, and then, but it'd be probably a rotational type thing where, maybe Dave, you're on 1 week, and then I'm on the next week, Casey's on the next week, kind of like what we do on public works side, where, and then if they would get a call and just say that there's a dog put in the kennel, they'd check on it at least twice a day or 3 times a day, and kind of go from there. So Jason and I can kind of work on that. We've started on it. Okay. The next thing we'll do is we'll move down to the Red River Valley Water Supply Project, because we got a lot of guys here for that, and I appreciate you guys coming tonight to talk to us about it, kind of give us a scope for the community. I got to listen to both of you, but apparently they didn't like my talking. They want to hear from you.
Well, good evening, I'm Dwayne DeCray, I'm the general manager of the Garrison Diversion Conservancy District and the head of the Red River Valley Water Supply Project. I have with me tonight Jay Anderson, who is our first vice president of Garrison down from the Lisbon area. And I got Sean Gaddy up in Grand Forks, and the A2S is going to give us financial figures. And Steve Burrian, who is getting the presentation set up right now with Burrian and Associates, who's been working with cities one-on-one to figure out your nominations if you actually want to nominate for the project.
I'm gonna get some time.
Don't have a long cable. We heard you wanted an abbreviated presentation, so once we get it up here, we'll go pretty quick. We have a presentation that goes for over 2 hours, if you want to hear that one.
We don't need that.
We're on a timeline tonight. Go for it.
Yeah, isn't there a member on the board or on the commission that has a coffee store that could have brought us something? Isn't there a member on the commission that owns a coffee shop that could have brought us something to keep us energized throughout the night?
Drop it.
Well, the fridge is full of stuff, I guess.
That stuff will make you sleepy.
You can use it. Make some avocados.
Then we're all awake until midnight or after.
It might be.
We make them all different flavors.
Casey, we never got order a longer cable.
Uh-oh. Stamping.
Well, I think we've done enough introductions, so let's just get right into that. So, the River Valley Water Supply Project, as Roy's pointed out, is an economic development initiative and long-term water supply initiative for the state of North Dakota, the central and eastern part of the state. So this is a DWR map, Department of Water Resources, and what you can take away from that is that North Dakota's groundwater is basically tapped out. They aren't really permitting any more water out of Bismarck, and this is the map that they've recently published that kind of shows why that is. If the yellow or gold, if you want to call it, that is likely in tight soils and would be hard to get out or is salty, and so there probably isn't much really want for that type of water, but the red and the blue are usable. As you can see, the red is pretty much all permitted out, and then the blue is the Missouri River or the area right around it that the water is available at. Other than that, the Missouri River in a 30-style drought is basically the only surface water that North Dakota has. Missouri represents over 95% of the surface water in North Dakota. So the project benefits, if you sign up, is surface water supplies will be limited in a drought other than the Missouri River. It'll supplement limited groundwater supplies, as we just saw on the last slide. North Dakota, one of the most agricultural states in the nation. As you can see, we're pretty much tapped out for industrial water right now, except if you're right on the Missouri River, and that's the reason for the project bringing water to the east, is because most of our ag projects are in the east, and we aren't really adding much value to them because of lack of water in North Dakota. It'll mitigate fluctuations in water availability. I don't know if we've got that slide in there tonight or not, but North Dakota is basically never normal. We're either awash in water or we're very short of water. We kind of ping pong between the two. And then it will provide economic benefits. In fact, in a 30-style drought without this project, the state will suffer about a $30 billion plus loss to the state of North Dakota if we have a 30-style drought and this project hasn't been completed yet. So this is what the project looks like now. I know when we were here in 2016 and you first nominated that the project went down to the Missouri River, so it didn't look quite like this. We were able to finally work with the federal government to get a record of decision, which we were never able to get before. And so we were able to get the water now out of the McCluskey Canal. That shortens the pipe up over 20 miles, so it saves us about $300 million in capital expenditures, and it also saves us a ton of money in operating expenses, because instead of a 600-foot lift out of the river, we'll have about 200-foot lift out of the canal, And when you're running million horsepower pumps with electricity, that's a lot of dollars. The project cost now is, at $2024, about $1.26 billion. So this, Steve, you go ahead and talk.
I think Mike sensitive, pick me up if I stand here.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, okay. So this is the same map that Wayne just showed you. So the project would come over from that canal that you can see on the left side of the map, and then come over and dump into the Lake Ashtabula, which is right north of Valley City. And then Bald Hill Dam controls Lake Ashtabula, and the water would run down the Cheyenne River, enter the Red River north of Fargo, and then run up in the Red River up to the Canadian border. When we look at the Hillsboro area, and we usually talk about Mayville and Hillsboro together, because both of you are in somewhat of a similar situation, you can see that the primary concept that we've looked at to get water over to you is that brown pipeline that runs from Cooperstown and then extends over to the Hillsboro area. And if that were done, you'd be capturing Missouri River water in its non-diluted form versus if we picked it up at the river, you'd be essentially getting river water with a little bit of Missouri River water in it. We did look, and we'll continue to try to look at getting water out of the Missouri, or out of the Red River at Hillsboro. However, one of the keys to that in low flows is a flowhead dam, some type of structure in the river that forms a dam that creates a constant head, and then we put the intake behind it. So when the river's really, really low, we have a way to capture that water. And the closest flowhead dams to you, unfortunately, are in Fargo and Grand Forks. And it's very difficult to permit a dam these days. And so it does appear like the most cost-effective way to get water to you would be to partner with some of your neighbors, bring it across in an enclosed pipe, and capture the high quality of the Missouri River water as a result of that.
So this is kind of how Garrison and Lake Agassiz works. Lake Agassiz was formed in 2005 by the North Dakota legislature, and it represents the users. And so Garrison Diversion, by statute, is the owner and operator of this project, and we also represent the state of North Dakota, which is putting in 75% of the cost of the project. So we provide the water supply to the Lake Agassiz Water Authority, and then Lake Agassiz would actually be who would supply the water to you after the project is completed. And then you'll pay your participation costs back to Lake Agassiz Water Authority, and then they will send on the state share to us, which we will give to the state. So this is our 23 to 25 work plan. The North Dakota legislature appropriated us $180 million, and with the 25% cost share, that's $60 million local share. That brings up our working capital to $240 million for the next 2 years. The yellow boxes show us just a continuing engineering design that we're working on, and then the green represents what's under construction. This summer, we'll actually have 3 construction companies in the Carrington area that are already there working. They haven't started laying pipe yet, but they're doing other things. We've got 2 of them east of town. Garney didn't finish up last summer, so they're supposed to finish up their contract this year. 3rd year they'll be there. And then Karstensen and Oscar Renda are the other 2. Oscar Renda will be east of town, and then Karstensen will be west of where Garney is now. So the project is critical for North Dakota. We've already talked about we're pretty much out of water for industrial needs. And so if the state's economic opportunities are going to continue to grow, we have many thirsty industries that we're looking at. Steve's going to go through all that and show you what kind of industries, with what kind of water it takes, and what your options might be, whatever you're thinking about nominating. The pipe size was projected out to 2075. So we think we're good for 50 years. The pipe itself should last 100 years. So we should be good to go for quite a few years. And we do want to point out, and it's not a threat, but we do want to point out there's a finite amount of water in the pipe. And we've been to quite a few meetings, and it looks like that the whole pipe is going to be appropriated out at this point. So if you miss your opportunity now to be part of the pipe, there's there's a good chance that the pipe will be sold out and there won't be any more water available. And the timeline is, I don't know if we've got that slide in here, but the timeline is we're trying to get a memorandum of commitment for what you want to nominate for in the June, July timeframe. And then in the December, right before we go back to the legislature and ask for money, that we would have some type of a participation agreement signed with you that you are in the project for the long haul.
So if we go back to 2016, and like Dwayne said, we could talk literally for hours on this project, and we were asked to kind of keep our presentation to as close to 15 minutes as we could. But if you go back to the original project that was designed, that was going to be a federal project, and when it became a state project, the state encouraged us to go out to knock on everybody's door from the Missouri River to the Red River, and from Canada and South Dakota. So in 2016, we went out and had about approximately 100 meetings. I think 3 or 4 of them were in Hillsboro. At the time, you guys agreed tonight to nominate for 0.5 cubic feet per second of water from the project. Dwayne mentioned that there's 2 ways the project will serve people. One is in a drought emergency, and because you guys use groundwater, we don't expect that you'll have a problem during a drought. The second is if you think that there's a potential that an industry could be located in your area, and then you don't have enough water to serve them. And what we looked at back in 2016 is that you felt that there was the potential for an industry to develop in this area, as you looked at partnering with Mayville and the rural water districts nearby and having enough water collectively that you could stand up a sufficient water supply for industry. And if you look over on the far right blue box there, you can see that Mayville elected to nominate for 0.5 CFS, just like you did. And then East Central, which is the merger of both Grand Forks Trail out of Thompson, and then your trail of water that was down here, they nominated for collectively 3.4 CFS, of which 0.5 of that was intended to be for trail. So you have a pretty good chunk of water down here that you can potentially serve to an industry. And the reason that's important is that many of these agricultural and even non-ag technology industries will use more water than your entire permit. And so if you're going to look at potentially having them, and you don't have to, but if you're going to look at that, given that the groundwater is all used up, and given that your permits are limited, this would be a potential way to achieve that. And you can see in the lower green box that of the total nomination for the project, approximately half of it is for that drought emergency. So the Grand Forkses and the Fargos and the Valley Cities of the world that are on surface water and expect their water to dry up during a drought. And the other half is recognizing this big uptick in industrial demands. This then is somewhat of a complicated graphic, but you can see Hillsboro at 0.5, Mayville at 0.5, East Central at 3.4. If 0.5 means nothing to you, 0.5 CFS is about 224 gallons a minute. So you can imagine that in comparison to maybe the water plant capacity that you've talked about. And what we put on this graphic is the type of water that typical ag industries use. So you can see in that 0 to 0.5, that like fowl processing turkey or chickens, a pasta plant, the beet plant would fit into that, low-end potato processing, oilseed processing would all fit into that. If you move over into some of the sizes of the current ethanol plants and the current like soybean cracking facilities and some of the other facilities that are out there, we're hearing a little bit more about beef now and dairy and cheese as the new laws kick in North Dakota where corporations can inject 25% of the capital into private companies. That would take you into more of that green area, which would mean that you'd have to partner with potentially Mayville and partner potentially with East Central to have sufficient water unless you nominated for more. And then if you go at like the Cargill corn processing plant down in Wahpeton, that's almost 3 CFS. The Simplot French fry plant is about 3 CFS, and the big Budweiser barley malting plant in Moorhead is 5. And if you go all the way to the right side there, there's been talk about a nitrogen fertilizer facility in both Grand Forks and Spiritwood outside of Jamestown. And that particular facility would use 12 CFS. which is about 8 million gallons per day or 5,600 gallons per minute. You can just see the sheer magnitude of water they're using. And then, for the sake of time, we didn't add another slide, but we have one that shows data centers and data mining and plastic facility and other things that are being considered in North Dakota, and all of those are pretty big water users as well. If we look at how could you use the water, you need to break away from your typical process of a well, going to your RO treatment plant, and going out into distribution. As Sean gets up here to talk about the cost for the project, he's worked extensively with Grand Forks on their recent Fufang project, or we call it the F word affectionately because it went away. But the Fufang project and then the current Epitome soy cracking facility, and both of those facilities were just looking at either using raw water straight out of the river or wastewater effluent. And so most of these industries aren't looking for drinking water, they're looking for a water that they can just simply use. And so if that pipeline came over to you, one approach is that you could sell it directly to industry without doing anything to it. Another approach, depending on how the rural water districts view it, is the ag use is going up, and so some of the areas are looking at adding ag depots, high-volume ag depots with that water. A more creative approach would be, because you have an aquifer here, you could use the water to put what's called managed aquifer recovery, where you actually put the water either in a holding pond or an injection well and put it down in the ground and store it there. And what that would do is increase the amount of groundwater supply that you have in the region. And then the last resort would be, if you think you're going to run short of water in Hillsboro, you could potentially treat it and either serve it to a community or farmstead. When we did the analysis back in 2016, and I'll show you some growth numbers today, when you look at your growth, I don't think you're going to run out of your groundwater. And so we're not here, as Chicken Little was saying, that the sky is falling in terms of the amount of water you're going to need long term. It's more of an opportunity for Hillsboro to partner with its neighbors on water supply. This just shows that this isn't the shape of most communities we go to. You can see that most of the communities in North Dakota grew to a peak in the 30s. When the dirty 30s hit, most of the communities start going down. Then they've seen just a little bit of an uptick in the last few years as a result of kind of the general upswing in North Dakota. Given your presence between Fargo and Grand Forks, you can see that your population is, with a little topsy-turvy, has pretty consistently grown since 1920. And so when we go out and forecast a couple different ways of looking at that, it suggests that if you stayed on the same linear growth plan as you have now, you could be somewhere around 1,800 people. And then the Bureau of Reclamation actually did some work for you back in 2000, and they suggested that you could get somewhere between 1,900 and 2,000 people. But even with that, we think your groundwater supply is adequate. I know you really wanted to focus on costs then, and so as Sean comes up, we are getting to the point where Dwayne indicated there's some contracts that need to be signed, and he'll quickly go over some of the cost numbers, and then we'll explain a little bit about the contract stuff, and then we'll answer any questions that you have.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, so just real quickly going to hit on where we're at financially and look at the project and where we've made some projections for systems related to what your anticipated cost of participation in the project is. A lot of what we'll show you as far as projections is primarily built upon some of what Dwayne hit as far as our legislative funding this session. There were a couple key things that happened. There was the cost share from the state, their 75% share in the project. That was $180 million, and there's the loan fund of $60 million. Fargo and Grand Forks on that $60 million loan fund have signed their commitment agreements, in essence, to fund or basically finance roughly $48.7 million of that. There's another $11.3 million that is required, and that is a part of all the small systems. And that loan, as it was set up, is set up to be, I'd say, very flexible in terms of how to pay it. So what we set up this biennium in terms of cost share, what we set up this biennium with the state as far as the loan program, a lot of that is a basis for some of the projections we're going to show you, because there are essentially 4 more biennial funding packages that are going to be required in order to build the project out to completion around a 10-year time frame. So we have the state cost share, we have the loan program that was created, we have the project, as Dwayne highlighted, that is now the NDOT alternative out of the McCluskey Canal. When we were back in 2021, I believe was the last time we met with the city of Hillsboro on this, the numbers and the values that we shared at that time was based on the full state project making its way all the way to the Missouri River. We now have the benefit of that federal decision, so the projections are based on utilizing that federal project and saving those dollars Dwayne mentioned. You know, the financing side of things, that is one of the very unique things we've been able to do with the state. That financing, 40-year 2% money for the local share. I don't know anywhere else where you can go find 40-year 2% money right now. On top of that, they've also given us a handful of additional levers that they pulled within that financing to include a deferral period. So if you were to make a commitment to the project and the current financing, your share of that remainder, $11.3 million, that deferral period, you would not be required to make a payment in essence for 2 years. Then thereafter, there's a 3-year interest-only period, and then after that, they allowed us to actually shape the debt. You know, Steve talked a lot about industrial opportunities and the potential that this could provide for Hillsboro and your neighbors. That opportunity, the likelihood of being there day one, you know, when we turn the project on, is probably not, the stars won't align quite that well. And so the state recognized when we were talking to them about structuring this loan program for the local share is the idea of being flexible, the idea of making the project cheaper earlier and allowing systems to grow into it. So it allowed us to step into it with deferrals, interest only, and then compressed principal payments, where essentially you pay less early, more later while you wait for that industry or that opportunity to materialize. That shape of the financing, your first payment in essence, when all of the deferrals and interest only, that first payment is about 20% less than your last payment. So think about moving in and then growing into that payment across the 40 years as we highlighted. On top of that, they're not requiring any coverage or reserving requirements, which would typically be required on like a state revolving fund loan or just a traditional revenue bond financing. So it gives a lot of tools, like I said, with that financing to make it affordable, and that is the basis for these projections as well. The project overall is based on the local cost. So Dwayne highlighted the $1.26 billion. The local cost share on that is just short of $311 million. All of that gets rolled into that financing, like I said, across the bienniums of funding packages. But we're not just talking about the capital cost share of this project. We're also talking about the operating, maintenance, administration, reserving requirements of the project as well. When we talk operations, the project overall is meant to always continuously run 6 cubic feet per second through the project. We can't have a 6-foot diameter pipeline just sitting stagnant full of water. So there is an operating cost component of that to always have the project in good working order. That's about $400,000 annually. The maintenance and administration, so for Dwayne, his staff, all the various parts, consumables that are going to be required on an annual basis to keep the project, again, in good working order. That's about $2.3 million, third number down there. And then in addition to that, we don't want to be nickel and diming systems, and so we also have done an analysis on what we would expect to have to pay for in the early 15 to 20 years of project operating around things that are going to wear out, electrical controls, pumps, etc. And we're also including in these projections the need to reserve that $664,000 annually. So all of that is essentially what becomes the local share and what is ultimately then allocated to the systems that choose to participate. So we've looked at your allocation based on that 0.5 CFS among the full 159 CFS to come up with a projection for Hillsboro's anticipated costs or projected costs. This is, on an annual basis, what we would project that to be in the year 2034. And the reason we picked the year 2034 is that's when we expect the project to be completed, operating, and we're to the point where you would be paying full principal and interest on those loans that I just mentioned. So in the year 2034, For those 4 cost components, for the finance share, roughly $24,000 annually. For the operations, just short of $900 annually. For the maintenance administration, $5,000 annually, and then the near-term reserving, $1,500 annually. You add all of those up, and if you look over on the right-hand side, upper right-hand side, the current projected cost of participation for Hillsboro for that 0.5 CFS is $32,000. That's the sum of the 4 numbers in green to the left. Mayville having the exact same nomination type as you, their numbers are exactly the same. That just, by chance, happens to be the case here. We're showing this for all systems so they understand, their size, their cost relative to their neighbors. In this instance, they are exactly the same. The one thing I would point out, and this is something we've been working with Casey even as recently as today, is we've been trying to represent what does that mean for each system as far as if you were to ask a user on your system or a typical user on your system, what would you be asking them to contribute monthly if it were all on the water bill? And those values for Hillsboro and Mayville, you can see over there the $376 and the $1.48 per month. That $376 per month for Hillsboro and Green was based on some water usage data we had in file from 2018. Some of the more recent numbers we've gotten from Casey here would suggest that maybe we had a bad number on file, I think.
We were just talking.
in 2018, and so I was just looking at it. I think what I saw, 135 million gallons used annually. It was 18 million cubic feet, I believe, was roughly on average for 22, 23, 18 million cubic feet. So that converts to 135 million gallons annually, and that, after looking through that a little bit further today, I think that's correct. This number here, I'll show you in a moment, I think it's on 40 million gallons.
But that was back at 135, some must be sold to rural, right?
That's what we're asking that question today, and you didn't know that for certain, correct?
If you used 100 gallons per capita per day and 1,800 people, I would expect it to be about 66 million, just as a guess, somewhere roughly around 60 million.
So it's somewhere between the two numbers we have, and I think we just have to ferret out a couple of other things. So all I'm trying to point out is on this slide, I think you're using more water than we have on file. I'm not certain how much more, but if that is the case, your 376 per month would actually be less than we're showing, because we'd have more units of water if you just spread it across, and it would lower each.
Why don't you talk about federal funding and why you talk about less?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. One of the big other things, Dwayne highlighted the NDOS project and the approval that we received on the record of the decision. That gave us eligibility for federal funds. And potential eligibility all the way up to $454 million to project completion. None of the values we're showing you here include any federal funding offset. And so Dwayne and the team, Garrison team, have very recently been communicating with Senator Hoban, and in current bill drafts, Hoban is looking at an appropriation to essentially get that $454 million provided to the project, which would bring all of these dollar amounts down significantly. There's some details to work out. If $454 million is provided, who gets the complete benefit of those dollars between the state and the local share? Their proposal 50-50 has been the initial proposal that has been made. If that is the case, I would expect these amounts to come down to about a third or to a half of the amount we're showing here. So there's a lot of potential that federal funding will make this even more feasible. Point of this graphic, we did provide everyone with projections. And the point of this graphic and the projections and the financial summary I gave you is that when we talk about those costs, if you recall, I mentioned the year 2034. We're not asking for all, if you were to sign a commitment, memorandum of commitment to ultimately send the PPA, we're not asking for the dollars today, that check required day one. We are expected to take essentially 8 more years to build on this 10-year schedule. That comes with 4 more, like I said, biennial funding packages, and essentially what you're seeing in the orange bars here is how we would expect that cost to phase in over time to that annual amount of that $32,000 that was on the prior slide. So that $32,000 isn't expected to be needed for about 10 years into the future annually. And along those lines, that would give you time to plan ultimately how you would implement that with your rates or maybe other local funds to pay for it. And really what we're showing here then in the orange pluses all the way up to the green 376 per month is if you were to incrementally implement that with each biennium's funding package, how those increases could be stepped in on your users over time, getting to that 376 a month. This is that exact same information shown for Mayville and Hillsboro in the top graphic that's showing incrementally the increases to the monthly bills required to fully fund that across the construction time frame and to the start of operations. And the bottom table is just showing how it's essentially the values that are associated with those bars on the prior graph and the actual numbers from very early on, just a couple $1,000s a year growing to that full $32,000 a year by the year 2034.
And the MOC number would likely be in that.
In the very early years, what we're talking about in the memorandum of commitment. So again, back to the $60 million, if you were to sign a memorandum of commitment this year on that $60 million financing, your share would just be for your allocation of that 11.3 million of the 60 million, and it would be the very early years of the payment, essentially shown here in the bottom table. So. If you did make the decision on the MOC or the memorandum of commitment to execute that with Garrison, you're only committing yourself to the very early financing components of the project. This is the value we have on file, which doesn't match any of the numbers we just mentioned as far as your water usage. And so we will update all of these graphics and figures on the bill impacts once we do work that out with Casey and the team. But just this was what we used for that 376. I expect that number to go down as we increase this volume of SIMs.
So as we transition then, what Sean was describing would be the cost of the water at basically Cooperstown at the end of the pipe. And so there will be some additional costs to get the water over to you, but we don't anticipate that you'd ever incur any of that cost until you were ready. And you'd have to have an industry here to have it make sense. And we are in the process of taking that brown pipeline and we're putting together an example business plan for that brown pipeline. And what that would show is how much the pipe would cost, how much it would cost operationally. We would look at some projected industrial revenue off that pipe, and we'd probably look at selling 25% initially, and then 50, and then 75, and then 100, so that you'd look at what the risk would be over time. And then some counties are looking at potentially going to their economic development corporation and having a little bit of the money for the project paid for by economic development. That's legal within the state statutes, and because it's speculative in nature, that would be one approach that Mayville and Hillsboro could consider. And so as soon as we get that analysis done, we will come back and share that with you, either at this meeting or at an informal meeting as soon as we get it completed. So then heading to the home stretch, we just have a couple slides left. That jumped on me. So as Dwayne mentioned, there's two big agreements that we're working on. So in 2016, when you signed up and paid a little bit of money in, there's been more money required in 17, 19, and 21, every time the legislature met. But because Fargo and Grand Forks didn't feel that the project had moved far enough along with Garrison, they funded the remainder of those activities. And so with the fact that we're now spending $240 million and the local match is getting to be a bigger number, and because we want to go back to the legislature at the end of the year and say we have our signups, the first step will be this MOC. What's an MOC? In that MOC, you'd be expressing that, yes, I want to be in the project. You'd be picking your nomination, and it can be that 0.5 CFS, or it can be a different number if you're interested in something different. You'd be committing to just that Series D contribution, and we have so many letters and acronyms, but that small dollar amount of about $1,600 to $1,800 a year, you'd be committing to saying that you're going to pay that, and that's all the MLC would do, but that would then give us some real sign-ups for the project, because now we're afraid that with no money on the line, people won't have to make a firm commitment to the project. With a firm commitment, we'll have a better sense of where we stand. If you get cold feet before year end and don't want to sign the project participation agreement, there's no guarantee that you'll get bought out of that commitment, so you need to be prepared to pay that. But the agreement is assignable. And what that means, as Wayne indicated, that we think we have interest in all of the capacity in the pipeline. So if you got cold feet by year end and you can find another user on the project to assign that contract to, you could get out of that responsibility and walk away from the project. So the MOC is really a good intention agreement with the exception of that smaller financial commitment, and that is assignable. The big commitment you're going to have to make if you're interested would be at year end. That's when the big project participation agreement would be due. That's about a 90-page agreement with about 300 pages of exhibits, and so we didn't want to just flop that down on your desk. It's pretty onerous, but they've had special legal counsel going through it, and I think by the time it gets to Hillsboro, Fargo, Grand Forks, Lawa all have looked at that in detail and make sure that it's representing your best interests. I guess she must have copied this one. And then the only other thing I'll mention before I'll head it back to Dwayne is that because Hillsboro sits in a rural water district, the likelihood of you guys getting a sale of a big ag industry right in the city limits is probably not very high. It could be close to you because they're going to want to be close to where the workers are, but it'd be right in town, just like Crystal Sugar isn't in city limits. This wouldn't be in city limits. If you know about all the ways that different people or systems are protected, East Central can't come and sell water within Hillsboro city limits, and you can't go sell water within their city, within their district boundaries. But what we've come up with is what's called a joint or cooperative nomination agreement. And in that agreement, if you can work something out with East Central, you would draw a radius, for example, around Hillsboro, 5 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles. And if anything happened within that radius, and there wasn't sufficient water that Hillsboro could provide or East Central could provide, then you would sell project water to them on a proportional basis to your nomination. And the benefit of that is then you can't get taken advantage of where if it happens right next to your city limits, that East Central nominates and takes that away from you, or vice versa. And that draft nomination agreement we do have in review right now, so we'll also share that when it gets ready. And that agreement talks about how you'd nominate together, how you'd go about maintaining both of your franchise protections, how you'd share that service territory, how you'd provide service to the prospective users, how you'd go about setting rates, and then how you'd share the revenue as a result of that. And this really came from Carrington, where the rural water district, they were selling to them. The rural water district built right up to their boundaries and decided that they didn't need their water anymore. And so Hillsboro's like, Carrington's like, why would I ever nominate again under this circumstance, because I'll just get taken advantage of over again. This is a provision that would protect all of the communities and all of rural water districts from those kind of things happening.
So we wanted to assure you tonight that this isn't the last time we're going to talk to you. If you want to run figures, we're keeping Sean real busy with his model, because most of the people that nominated are trying to figure out what they can afford and if they can expand or what they want to do. And so we're here, if you come up with a nomination scheme, Sean can work with you to tell you what that nomination scheme would cost you. And so we want you to know that we're here to work with you, and so we're not going to leave tonight and forget about you, that will be at your disposal. So I think you're getting towards the end of we're getting through the second time here now, so, but we've got the time to work with you if you decide on what kind of a nomination you want to do, or if you have more questions on what it would cost. And we'll help you to determine those desired nominations. And I think we've talked to East Central a couple times now, we know that they're interested in something. And so I think a joint nomination with you and East Central will probably be a smart thing to look at. And also maybe expanding with Mayville. And so those are ideas we wanted you to have in your head that after this evening you can talk about them amongst yourselves and kind of decide what direction you want to go, if you want to go. So the service benefits of the Red River water supply are future economic development activities, industrial growth and expansion. You're lucky with the beet plant. It's a water adder, not a water user, but another type of industry you're probably going to need water for. Secure backup domestic water supply. We don't know what these aquifers are going to do in a 30-style drought. No records were kept then. Everybody's assuming that they're going to be there. We don't know. And they don't guarantee you a stable and reliable water supply. Why join now? Because the legislature did put in a latecomer fee if you don't sign up when everybody wants to sign up, and you come back later and you decide you want to sign up. They didn't say what it is, but they said there would be a latecomer fee. And then, like we said at the very beginning, we think the pipe is going to get sold during the sign-up process. So you would probably want to look at joining now or never. We want to thank you. I guess our Vice Chair would like to give some closing remarks, and with that, then we will get out of your hair. And if you have questions, I know we weren't as exciting as the dogs, but.
Well, thank you. I'm Jay Anderson, Vice Chair of Garrison Diversion. With that, I'd just like to say a big thank you to Steve, Sean, and Dwayne with all these meetings and making it informational. But I guess the main thing I guess I want to make sure and leave you with is make sure that you're looking forward. If you think back, think when you were young, I'll just label it that way. Say, 10 years old, 20 years old. Think of what water was being used. Think of the potential and things that have happened since then. Way now, like down in my area, I'm in Lisbon, I'm in the southeast corner. We have a Cargill corn milling plant. We have a sugar beet factory. We have a Castleton, a soybean processing facility. And we have a corn ethanol plant, also at Castleton. With that, those kind of economic development and facilities use a lot of water. And I guess the thing I want to leave you with is that make sure you're thinking forward. I can attest, I'm also a director on a rural water system, Southeast Rural Water, and I've been on and involved in it since 1994. And every year, our water demand and need per user has increased. That's every year. It's technically always increased. With that, we're getting to the point, and of course we're involved in this project also, that, we are looking forward and where can we, capitalize, in regards on, the water demand and all. So with that, and leaving, again, thank you, and I'm sure we'll all be in touch with Dwayne and Sean and Steve, so thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions right off the bat?
Just curious, you're drawing this from the Missouri River? And on what basis is it that's in a drought like the 30s if the Missouri River is going to have water?
The lowest flow of the Missouri River ever documented was 13,000 cubic feet per second of natural flow. And so we're asking like 165. And we have another slide that we didn't show you tonight, and there's a lot of other states that are coming after the Missouri River. And I added up what they're asking for out of the Missouri River, and it actually is more than that 13,000 cubic feet that would be the lowest flow ever. At this point, the Missouri River is an uncompacted river, and that may change because the tribes over in Montana got a great big water settlement out of the state of Montana, and our tribes are looking at that, and so they might go after the Missouri River, and South Dakota is going after Kansas. I look to the southwestern part of the United States, Colorado, and even as far away as Los Angeles, have looked at the Missouri River through the Bureau of Reclamation, and they do have plans on the book. I'm sure that any of those states would do that. There's certainly going to be a lot of legal challenges involved before they're ever going to get any water out of Missouri. State of Missouri actually has a law on its books that it challenges in court every drop of water that comes out of the Missouri River. And so that's why the NAWS project in North Dakota was in court for 17 years, and we were in court for 2 years or whatever, but we did an environmental impact statement, which is the highest level of environmental work you can do, and they only did an environmental assessment, and that's what they got sued on. They had to go back and do an EIS. So right now, the Missouri River can certainly handle this project, even in a drought. You also have to remember that the drought here isn't necessarily drought in the Missouri River, because Missouri River gets its water out of the mountains on this side of the mountains. And so we could be a 30-style drought here today, and they can have snow in the mountains. And so so what we had to do, though, was needs and options report for the federal government, and the finding was that there is more than enough water in the Missouri River right now. And it's permitted. When North Dakota gave up over 500,000 acres of river bottom land for the Lake Sakakawea, we were permitted 1,000 acre-feet of water and more than that. We haven't even scratched the surface on using that, but it's under Western water law. I think it's a million, so it's million acre. What's that? Million acre feet of water, and we haven't even scratched the surface of that. But we're under Western water law, which is first in time, first in right. And so if somebody else comes to the Missouri River with a project that puts the water to beneficial use, they can actually take some of our permit away. And that's why the state feels like there is some urgency into getting this pipe nominated out and getting it done and get the water pumping, because our neighbors to the south are looking at the Missouri River.
What you're saying is a lot of truth, the whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting.
You feel that.
So we mentioned.
I was going to law school right now, I was sure look at water.
You guys mentioned Grand Forks and Fargo and Hillsboro. Is there anyone else, or is it before me?
Yeah, we take it for granted. There's 35 different systems that signed up originally in 2016, 20 communities, and all 15 rural water districts between the Missouri River, the Red River, and the North Dakota and South Dakota border. The only exceptions are in communities of your size. Harvey and New Rockford didn't sign up, and they cited the fact that Carrington always wins. They had development battles, and so they weren't going to sign up. They also were in that area where those canals got shut down, and so they're kind of quote-unquote pissed about Garrison diversion, and so they had some hard feelings. At the time, Breckenridge didn't sign up, but we pinned that back down, and Breckenridge is probably as excited as anybody, because they're seeing a lot of interest from high-volume ag processors. Oaks didn't sign up, but we've been down in Oaks, and it looks like they may sign up. But in terms of your neighbors, Lisbon, Valley City, Grafton, Park River, along the pipeline, Carrington, Cooperstown, some of the small towns, Hannaford, Mackville, and Rashawn, if you can think. We have them all listed on the map. You're doing good. Lisbon signed up. Winter didn't sign up, but we're trying to get them interested as well.
East Grand Forks is going to buy the water from Grand Forks. Moorhead was out, but then the Minnesota DNR did not give them any more water permitted out of the Buffalo Aquifer right east of there, and so then they're back, they're going to buy their water from Farmland. And so
Laramore was part of it, they're going to join East Central. Langdon was part of it, they're going to join Northeast. So there's just...
So the only rural water system we had to move from was Central Plains, and they're now they were water depots, so they're in actually. So we have a lot of people that did nominate now that want water, but of course, the people that did nominate will get first shot at the pipe. So
The other thing, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
the other thing that we haven't told you, and it sounds a little bit used car sales like, and so I'm going to say it anyway, is that we're building this pipeline for both economic development and drought. And if Fargo and Grand Forks continue to grow, this pipeline will only meet their needs through 2075. And if you look at the trajectory of Fargo and Grand Forks, there's likely going to be a second pipe required. Not in our lifetimes, maybe not even in our children's lifetimes, but eventually they're going to need a second pipeline. Before that happens, I sense that, and I've talked to the Fargo City Administrator, Fargo will go out and buy everybody's unused capacity before they build that second pipeline. And that's not in a threatening way, only if you're willing to sell it. If you're not willing to sell it, you can keep it for your original purpose, but you could sell it, you could lease it to them, because it's going to be so much cheaper to take a project built in the 2020s than it is going to be built, if the project is built in 2070s. And that's probably, 1.2 billion is going to be 5 or 6 billion in that period of time. And so I can almost assure you that your successors will eventually be able to put this water to work. You'll either be able to use it for industry, you'll be able to use it to sell to another partner that has an industry close to you, but it doesn't happen to be in Hillsboro, it is your property right, you can sell it. And in the worst case, I think you'll sell it to one of those big municipalities or lease it to one of those big municipalities, ensuring that you get your money back, but it's going to be a long play. It's not going to be a short one. So you're not shorting stock for 6 months, you're shorting stock for 50 years.
The example I'll give there, Steve, is, we talked about the wet corn mill in Grand Forks. If they would have gotten that project, all the way to the finish line, Grand Forks would have needed to increase their nomination.
You're breaking the mic rule, but.
Sorry. To be that not one project in Grand Forks would have consumed their entire industrial nomination that they have in the project.
Left, yeah.
Yeah, that they have left in the project, and so they would have, immediately day -0 have had to go get more. And so I think there's going to be things like that do happen. They're going to be out there and people are going to be looking for it.
That was my next question. If you pick up 0.5 CFS and you don't need it, do you sell that you don't need, or can you adjust and buy more if you need more? How does that work?
I think you can always sell it, because it is a property right. But to get more, you would have to then go out most likely and round up some of your neighbors. So if they look at the interstate and you broke across the interstate with your 2 manufacturing facilities there, and somebody says, okay, between Fargo and Grand Forks on the interstate, we have rail, whatever other things they look at and say, Hillsboro is our spot. If it's more than 0.5, you'd look to partner right away with East Central and Mayville, most likely. If it's more than they need, then you'd go to Grand Forks and Fargo most likely, because they know whatever you get here is going, up and down to the route for a hockey game or shopping at the mall or whatever the case may be. And so they look at that as a regional opportunity, and then you'd either get it from them, or they would just sell part of it so you don't have the risk. They would just sell part of their water. But that's the model that we're looking at.
It's probably Fargo's mall and our hockey game.
That's what I said.
I know. They're not coming to our mall.
Yeah, we call the Commerce Department because they get the calls in North Dakota of businesses that want to come. And they say the number one thing that you have is they want an interstate highway. They don't just want a highway, they want an interstate highway. Then they want gas, and then they want electricity.
Rail.
And
then,
electricity.
Abundant electricity.
That's why the data centers and all that are so high, electrical use are ending up in western North Dakota is because they're right close to the generation, so. But you're in a really good spot with the interstate highway.
Other questions?
All I have.
Go ahead.
I have no more. That's all I have. I usually
said, oh, yeah.
So, no.
Any other questions from, you guys don't have to make a decision tonight. It is you gotta digest it. We sat through 2 hours and we had to digest it all.
Yeah. But, talk amongst yourselves, and I'm sure after you've done that, you're going to probably want Sean or Steve to come back and work on the figures for you, and we're still working on the branch pipelines, so I think we're close. So, and it's just one other thing is, Fargo sells their used water to and the soybean plant, and they're making a ton of money on their water that they told us that themselves.
And so when we do this business plan for you, we're going to look at putting the amount that you're investing in that business model. So we're not expecting the citizens of Hillsboro to carry that long term. We're expecting that you'd be wise enough to put any pipeline costs in, as well as your contribution to the project into that business plan, and then you'd still have a margin after that, and I don't know how much, but if you got a successful industry, and that's the way you'd want to do it. And that's how we'll set up the business plan.
We know we're elected officials, and you got to be able to look your constituents in the eye and tell them you did a smart thing. And so we want to work with you long enough, so whatever you do, we want you to be able to look your constituents in the eye and say, we did a smart thing.
And Dwayne's board, of which Jay's the vice chair, it really told us that we can, if you call, we're going to help. So if you want to see what 0.25 looks like, if you want to see what 1 looks like, so you can see both ends of it, we'll get you those numbers. If you want to have a set up meetings with Mayville so you can chat some more, if you want a meeting with East Central and you feel like they're a bit of a big brother, we can facilitate that for you, whatever it takes to get to the finish line. If you're interested, and if you're not interested, we will not pressure you. It's your choice.
But ultimately, we as a city want to grow. Do we want that right, that potential, and it's not going to happen today or tomorrow. It is 10, 15 years down the road what we've been looking at. And, we can't go back and say, we go back and say sometimes, well, why didn't they do this back in the past? That's what it's going to be. So we have to make the right, is 30,000 or 35 or whatever that amount is it worth our investment now for the next 50 years? And I know that didn't come across when I was trying to explain it to you, so these guys did a much better job.
You didn't say it as nicely as you just did.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you guys. Be helpful for your computer system.
Don't you said you have the Anderson, you have rail. I'm not sure.
We were out there, and everybody said we were on the table.
Okay, I'll put that on my agenda.
I just know you were out there talking, and so I don't know if you heard.
I did, well, thank you.
didn't realize that. 30 feet might be okay. If there's child and I sit on the car.
We had one here one time. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Send you the slides tonight's meeting.
We have the big pack from the other meeting, if you want to see it. Casey can share it with you as well.
Sean will probably finish, figuring out the numbers. Send it over. Got a question on it?
If you guys want to think about this and come back at the next meeting and try to make a decision if we want to buy into it or not, but
I'd like to see the new numbers.
great. Okay, let's move on and we'll go into the delinquent bill list, which kind of ties into the email that Casey had sent us, because I don't see it on the...
Nope, I didn't put it on there, that was something that popped up just today.
Yep.
So,
If you guys seen it, it was somebody that had a bill, was on the bill list, or the disconnect list, signed up for a contract, violated that contract, and then we were able to put them on another contract, and now we're delinquent on that contract again, and that would be number 27, if you guys were wondering on the amount that's due.
There is more on that as of late this afternoon. The customers who were going to be here decided not to come because they signed up for assistance. And they have yet to be approved, but the county has requested that the city work with them to make sure that the bill is paid. I said that's up to you guys. I let them know when the due date is. So if you guys are willing to give any sort of extension, county office is supposed to be paying the bill. That's what I know as of right now.
They're paying the full amount?
Yep, that's what I was told.
What's the total bill? $1,015.54.
And that's prior to the next bills being generated. Those will be generated this week. So that entire amount will have penalty on it after today.
So you're not going to do a new contract with them?
I'd rather not.
Is that what I'm taking?
Correct.
That's
Yeah, I
okay.
wouldn't either.
And nor will we do another contract with them, ever. I would suggest that the only way that they don't get shut off is if there is a written from the county or wherever those funds are coming from, that they will get paid.
I agree. They
have since twice been.
Yep.
Okay. Then do I have a motion to approve the disconnect list?
Make the motion.
Dave makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Jason. Any other discussion? Paul?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
And a yes for me. Motion carries. Next item is the presentation of the April financials.
Trying to get it ordered up.
You're not hooked. You gotta go.
It's not popping up for me on here though. No.
I was shocked that, really, somebody plugged in for him. Oh, that's nice. I was thinking at 5:30. I didn't even plug in my computer. I thought for sure I was doomed.
You can try that others.
Try the other one.
Just try to explain it. Everybody should have it, right?
Yes. It was on the link for the meeting. Nothing too surprising for the month of April. If you go to the meeting link, you're able to see the cash balance and investments for the city. As of right now, everything included, balance of all funds plus investments comes to $3,902,636.18. The budget control is also available online. Nothing surprising for the month of April. that I had noticed on there either. And if I can get the SmartCast to work, we'll get it popped back up on the screen. It doesn't seem to wanna.
No, it doesn't. That's wrong, maybe I have to get it previous.
Oh, yeah.
So if you guys take a look at those. Otherwise, we'll move on into the commission report. We'll start with Dave tonight.
I have nothing tonight. Paul?
I don't know, I was down to the Missouri River Energy Services Annual Convention. They always do a great job. Casey was down there too. It's really a lot of good information. They've had a lot more services too than they've done in the past, so we might want to look at using some of those services. One of them that really jumped out to me was strategic planning, that they can work with us on. I would like to do more research on that and find out if that's something that we can do moving forward. So, and of course, we're still working for alignment and all that happy stuff. So hopefully one of these next ones will work out for us and we get, there's a lot of things we're in the summer here and we want to get a lot of things moving forward. And until we get this, I think if we don't get something soon, we're just going to have to meet with Missouri River and we're going to have to lay down a plan for the summer and work with them and know that potentially to get some of the summer projects we need to get done. So that's all I have.
Okay. Jason?
I have nothing.
Nicole?
I have nothing.
Man, you guys make it easy tonight.
You just look at the rest of the agenda. And we're here till 10.
Right. Planning and zoning met and they forwarded on the information for you. There's a couple of other items on there that we'll go over. On the beautification side, next month is when a lot of the court cases will come up that are on there. There has been a few that have been forwarded on to you guys, but I held off on them because we had a long enough agenda tonight, so I'll get it on the next meeting. They are sending out letters currently for 44 trees that we're looking at taking out. That's 100% covered by the Forest Service grant. We got one bid in so far, and it was $13,000 something to take out all the trees, and that's cars, which we've used before. That is everything down to the stumps, and then we'd be looking at renting a stump grinder this summer after those are out to get all the stumps taken out. And then within the same letter, we're going to ask residents to, those that want to put a tree back in their boulevard, that we would ask them to take care of it. We did get water bags through the grant so those will go on the trees, but we're looking at putting in 100 trees, anywhere from 4 to 6 foot trees, based on who we can get. So, but 44 taken out is a pretty good number to get out for that amount. A lot of them got damaged in the storm or broken over. So,
And if I understand it, they'll be getting letters, and if they have issues, if they don't want their tree taken off for whatever reason, they don't think it's bad shape, but they need to just get back to the city or
and
to let us know.
happen. Other than that, we should have some more information on that in the next meeting. JR, do you have anything tonight?
Nothing from me.
Casey?
I have a couple things. First one is, this came in late on Friday, so it wasn't on your agenda, but Heritage Publication would like to do another Trail County magazine. Here, I'll pass one, pass one each way. This is a publication put out with all of Trail County in it. They are looking for Hillsboro to do an advertising. The same advertising that was done in these last two editions is called a double truck advertising. The cost of it this year would be $998. And if you flip through the pages, you can see what the ad was. It's a 2-page as soon as you open it. But they are looking to see if you guys would be willing to do that. So there's that. Our tech update, I've had a few people ask me about it, and how the grant ties in from MRES. We're still waiting to hear from the Department of Energy on if the entire grant is accepted or not yet. We won't know that until later this year. And the most that we would get out of the grant would be $26,250, which is half of the portion of what would be applicable to utility billing would be, metering, utility billing, all of that. The entire program with all of the bells and whistles that was asked for in the first quote from Tyler was $75,488 as a one-time fee. So take $26,250 off of that, and that's what the city would be required to cover for everything included. After that, recurring fees would be $30,422 per year. So if the commission is interested in going with Tyler, I think it would be advantageous to plan on it in the 2025 budget. But those are the numbers that we'd be looking at if the grant is given.
So today we have to put down, or the next meeting, we have to put down some of it for to start, but a majority of it would come out of the 2025 budget. Because even if we started now, it wouldn't get implemented until then, so.
Yep, it does. I did clarify with Brad at MRES, and he did say that no contracts can be signed sooner if you are part of the grant. So we still gotta wait it out.
Oh, they still?
Yep.
Okay, so I guess we gotta wait.
Yep, the soonest that we could have Tyler up and running if the commission were to go with him would possibly be April or May of '25. So there's that.
And it is, the county has switched over that, so that would help a lot with our property and everything. Property cards, payments, different things, so it is a benefit to do this, along with the benefit of having Missouri River also helping us with it.
Mind me again what the grant you're looking at, the amount of that?
Yep, it's a 50/50 grant that MRES is helping us apply for through the Department of Energy. The costs that are applicable to the grant, with it being 50/50, the entire amount is $52,500 that we could get a 50% reimbursement on. So $26,250 would be what the grant would give us back.
And then how much they want to start?
75.
Yeah.
75 something.
Yep, so, yeah, about $7,500 as like a down payment. The entire amount for all the bells and whistles is $75,488, and that's for installation, transferring everything over from our current software, and that would just be for the one-time fee. Recurring fees every year after would be $30,422.
And there's no server then involved with it, we wouldn't need that anymore. The billing software is integrated into Tyler, so we don't have to pay that separately. We wouldn't have those issues.
Do you have a dollar amount on what those would save us totally?
I didn't do that.
Well, the server,
I remember I got the server and stuff and sent it to Casey, I can't remember.
it's like 25 or somewhere around in there, I would guess. And then I think it's 75 or 9,000.
I think Joe said it was like $2,500 a year for the server, and then also there were some other fees that we would save.
Yep, you messaged me that Joe says that switching to the new program would save around $5,000 to $6,000 a year.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Per year plus the purchase of the server and...
No, he broke down.
Oh, he broke down.
Yeah, the server was part of it. 10 or whatever they typically.
And I think we probably spent another around 2 for the billing software, probably off and on that time. So.
Yep, from current IT costs and server costs is what you said, sorry.
Yep.
That was in a second text.
So we don't have to make a decision on that tonight.
Yep. So there was that. Then I only have 2 other things. Audit 2023, you don't have to make a decision on this, but I wanted to put it in front of you guys to consider getting audit 2023 done this year. We are tentatively on the schedule for a week in July to start that. I put that on just because of 2020 through 2022 being done, and I thought, why not get 23 done if you guys would like to. I don't have an amount on it, but I feel like the cost of a single year audit is $20,000 to $25,000 with iBailey.
I believe so.
Yeah. So there's that. I can get hard numbers and let you guys know.
Is the state no longer doing them at all?
They do them.
I know we moved to iBailey because the state wasn't able to get it.
We weren't able to get caught up. We could get back on the state.
I'd just be nice to see what the comparison is of that, like cost-wise and timeline and.
Cost-wise, I believe it'd probably be less. I think we were spending $14,000 to $15,000 before. And the timeline, state would be much longer. So, but we'll get some numbers on it for you.
And then the only other thing I wanted to let you guys know, I think I gotta find out who signed me up, but I got signed up for a boot camp for grant writing, specifically the Brownfields program through the National League of Cities. Brownfields, it's restoring property within a city that has been built on but might need resurrection and updating. So I'm currently going through that, and that's a program starting this month through September. So my initial thought was possible locations downtown that could use updating, but if anybody has any ideas, in order to stay with the program, I have to have some sort of an idea of an area in town to write a grant for. So that's what I kind of decided on. But if you guys have any other ideas, throw them at me. That would be awesome. And that's all I have for my report.
Okay. Steve, do you have anything for us tonight?
No, I yielded all my time to the River Valley team, so I think they used it all up.
Okay.
Any questions or anything else for me, I'll dump it out. I'll be back again.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, storage container ordinance. So we went through that again, and we're able to get it all completely done. There was a couple individuals that came and had brought up concerns here. They were at both of the times that it was there, and so we did. They seemed to be okay with it, or Bruce, when he asked them several times, they seemed to be okay with it, and so we're asking. They're asking for the blessing to have the readings on them and then the implementation. But the stacking would be allowed as long as it's on a cement slab, no more than 2 high. And we took out the list, and it'll be held internally instead of in the ordinance of where the current containers are at.
So you're doing the first reading tonight? Is that what you're?
If you so approve.
I'll make the motion that we do a first reading.
Is there a second?
This is on the storage container? Just to do a reading on it?
First reading on it, yep, which then we have reading, and then a second reading, and then it would be enacted at the next meeting.
Something about.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Nicole. Is there any other discussions?
Is there a limit on the number they could put on a lot? You know?
We didn't put a limit.
Didn't put a limit?
That'd be on commercial. Residential's is,
No, but I'm saying if I wanted to put 4 on my lot, I can do that?
if it fits within the ordinance is where you can put your, no different than a building.
Okay. You read all this, we're good with the verbiage?
He wrote it all.
Is that what you drafted?
And then there was only one, like, 1 or 2 markets there, right?
Okay.
I'm glad it's not stacked any higher than that.
Which we didn't, they were very leery on even stacking too high, and they wanted to make sure that it was secured was their biggest concern. Okay? Any other discussion? Nicole?
Yes.
Jason? Yes. Paul?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
And a yes for me. Motion carries. We held off last meeting on the borough to get it fixed. Anybody find anybody else that would be interested in fixing it? Or if you want to fix it?
I did some speaking with some residents and some people that were originally involved in the original borough, and the feedback that I'm getting is they don't, it's time to let the ship sail, was the exact words that I got.
Interesting.
You mean it's just not have the borough?
Just not have it, or I'll see if we can find somebody and do a whole new one, because they were involved with the first one, and they said they believed the total cost was like $300. They didn't think that the cost to get it fixed was worth the money.
Interesting.
I don't know that you can get a new one for 300, but.
Well,
No, just going to do it for 300.
keep our eyes open, I guess, and see what.
I guess that was just the feedback that I got from people that were involved with the original one, or part of it, not my main one, but.
If they were involved in the original one, would they maybe know how they got it done?
Yeah, they said there was that company up in, Grafton? No,
Or somewhere, it's out of business.
They're no longer in business? Oh,
Okay.
that's hard.
So that was one recommendation, is to reach out to them and see if they would be interested in doing another one, but obviously that won't happen. So that's just what I've been getting. I don't know if you guys have gotten anything different.
Just the ones that wanted it back. I haven't heard any different than that, so.
I haven't heard from a single person, so I'm surprised that nobody can say something about it. And once it gets out there, they'll start to save the borough fund or something.
Maybe.
Or somebody donate it after it's made.
I do know that it was much cheaper than one that I asked, again, the one that said it was too much work, and I asked them, what it would cost, and they were probably 3 times. So, all right, I will find storage for it. All right, next item is recommendation for Public Works employee. I know Zach and the team have interviewed, and they do have a candidate that would like to be hired. Before we say the name and everything, I wanted to give some information to you guys so that you guys can make a decision about knowing individually who it is. The individual that they selected would not come and work for us for less than $29 an hour. Their certifications are not there that it would get them to 29. There's potential for them to move forward and get those certifications, but some of my concerns, if we did that, we then would have to move everybody up because we're moving our base scale up. They asked about possibly changing health insurance because they want to take health insurance. So offsetting and getting a higher wage on that end. That could be an issue as well if we did that, because now we're gonna have to start paying other employees that don't take health insurance, because we have a few of those. So I wanted to see your opinion on those things before we gave a recommendation to hire.
How many more people do we have waiting in the wings to work for us? Besides this guy, or gal?
Interviewed for.
What's the current scale?
We put it out at $18 to $40 an hour, which is, 18 is what we started everybody at, and then 40 is the top end of, once everybody gets their certifications and so on and so forth.
But they don't have the certifications?
Currently, they want-
Right?
Correct.
That's why I know.
Would they get the certifications without the boost in wage? Would they get the certifications without the boost in wage until it got to that 29?
If he had the certification that potentially he could get, it would get him up to $29 an hour.
But what I'm saying is we would, if we start at 29, he gets the certifications, is he gonna wanna go with, whatever those races are?
That's our concern.
That concerns me a little bit, that really puts it up there, so.
Because certification would be, it's one of our $10 certifications, so.
Go with the,
So we just want to know what your thoughts are on that before we brought it out, and then if you guys are saying no, then they'll go back and redetermine and we'll have somebody else hopefully. Because like I said, they did have 4 applicants. There was one more, or 2 more that came in after you guys started interviewing again, so. So I guess what is your guys' thoughts on it?
did they bring something else to the table that would justify any other training, experience, or anything?
I mean, there's some experience, but I don't know that we could go to 29. I mean, you look at our newest hire, we brought him at 18 or 19. They automatically get a raise after 6 months. And he had some experience doing other things, so.
I do think we might want to look at our bottom scale, look at our pay scale, but I don't think we can offer this one more than what our guys that have been out working for us are at.
Might be a different story if there was nobody else. But if there's other people that are qualified, I think it would be worth looking at them.
Some of the concerns was there could be potentially part of the community, those type of things, which is a consideration, and I do think that's valid. And we want somebody that's going to be part of the community and be here long term, but I don't know that our residents would be happy with us spending that much. So. Anything else, Seth? So. Yep.
Were any of the other 3 even considerable?
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
Okay.
Right. And when we say 18, 18 is where we're starting somebody new, like young and that are no experience, so we hope that somebody else coming in is going to get up. And, Zach is a prime example, came in at the bottom and he's worked his way up in a short amount of time, so I'm doing really well at it, so. Okay. Next item is the demo grant, and that is for rates. They're asking for 2,000. Traditionally, we've done 1,000 unless there was nobody else, then we would give out the full 2. But that is to tear down a garage and replacement garage. I make the motion for how much? 2,000. Dave makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Paul. Is there any other discussion?
Do we have any other people interested in the grant, or?
It's basically whenever traditionally what it's been is anybody that's tore down anything or going to look at it, it's just to help them tear it down.
Helps to tear down, not to,
Right. To get rid of some dilapidated, blighted, which we would definitely earn this back, especially when they're putting up a new building, so.
Is this at a residence or?
It's at a residence, yeah.
At a residence?
Yep. And the last one we did was the house that burnt, if I remember right. The brewery had one when they took down the banner. They got two, so.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Jason?
Yes.
Nicole?
yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. And a yes for me. Motion carries. Next item is planning and zoning member. Can't remember if I told you or not, Paul Brown is moving, and so the planning and zoning, he was Matt Miller's, or it's their recommendation to be the next planning and zoning member.
He's a good guy. I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Paul. Any other discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Social media archiving, I'd like to hold off on this because I want to do some more research to see if there's some other cheaper options out there, or what the actual requirement is before we spend 10 grand. Next item is the 2025 tax equalization letter of intent for approval. That's with the county, which we've hired the county in the past to do all of our work, as long as you guys are okay with that. The amount seems pretty normal to what we've had in the past, so,
It's every year.
yes.
There's a slight increase for the 2025 year. It was high of 14 for this year for the
But it's based on salaries, I'm sure the county has raised salaries, so. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Jason makes the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Paul, any other discussion? Dave? Yes. Nicole?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And a yes for me, motion carries. The next item, you guys don't have to do anything with it, it's more informational, and so it's there to kind of get the discussion on it. And there was a presentation a little bit, so you can understand it on graphics, but it'll be kind of hard.
Do you want me to go print some out?
No, I'll see if I can.
G you're talking about?
G, yes, from the 30th century, but I'll kind of break it down for you for the gist of it so you can kind of understand how it would work. And it's all written in ordinance, and it's meant so that if something gets put in, it can't be taken away without the approval of the community. And JR looked through it a little bit, so he had changed a few things to try to help. But how it would work is if we decided to take and go to the ballot for that extra 1%, the 1% would be put in a separate fund that the commission could not touch any of the sales dollars of it. The only thing that could ever be touched by the commission would be the interest off of those funds. The reason for this is how do we prepare for the future, because we have rising costs, and where does our funds currently come from? Either sales tax, property tax, or user fees. We've seen public safety increase up 175% since 2019. We've seen construction costs going up anywhere from 14 to 15% every year. The public has always asked us to decrease property tax, but with us needing to increase to pay the bills, where do we find this money for it? And our rising cost of projects. And some of the things we've talked about are stormwater improvements, street overlay projects, drainage project, swimming pool, army improvements, electrical infrastructure, all those things. So if you think of this similar to what we've been doing with the it's very similar, I know it's kind of hard to see, but very similar to what the legacy fund is in concept, that all of the money, that whether we set up one fund, two funds, three funds, and this is just a draft, this does not have to be in play, it could be changed in any way, shape, or form. But my proposal to this is that, let's say we take in $200,000 a year. That $200,000 would put into maybe a public safety fund and a street fund. So maybe $100,000 each, however we designate. In this first draft, what I had said is at least 50% has to go into a public safety fund to build it up to an amount. And that would be put in the ordinance, and it could not be changed out of the ordinance. The only thing you could ever do is increase it. So if we say $2 million today, the $2 million could never go away. We could have it to 2.5 million, we could have it to 3 million, but the commission could never take that fund away. It would have to be there. The only way that fund could ever be taken away is by a vote of the general people, by a simple majority. And once it is set up, so let's say if it went to the fire department, all of the interest from that fund has to go for that use. And the benefit of it is, let's say we, 20 years down the road, we're reasoning that we have an increase in fees or an increase in fire protection, our next option is we got to go back to the public to ask for money. Well, instead of asking the public for money, we can see that we need to put more money into this bucket so that that interest is going to generate higher. On average, you will see about 7% interest on anything over the years. So it's going to fluctuate over time as interest, but would be an investment. And once it hits, that bucket fills up. So the fire department bucket or public safety fills up to $2 million. It stays there, and the interest goes for public safety, fire department, whatever is set in the ordinance. Then maybe there's another bucket that we're filling up that you would use the interest for a streetlight fund or for road maintenance or whatever it is, so that those buckets keep filling. If the commission does not set anything, it would go into the main bucket, and it could just build, and the only thing that could ever be used out of that main bucket again is the interest. But it has to be designated for something. This is more of a savings account for the next future to make sure. And I know the fire department at times have looked at doing 0.5% to help fund their project, which this is long-term. This is, if we did this, when I looked at it, you can't fill, the way it's right in there, you can't fill more than 3 buckets in at any one time. So it's not, you can't be building a whole bunch of funds up. If, based on the sales tax that brought in, we are generating about $243,000, $244,000 a year right now. By year 8, the fund balance for, say, public safety, if we put it in there and didn't take the interest out, you would be up to $2.5 million in 8 years. And the fund, the interest payment on that $2.5 million would be about $163,000 a year in public safety funds. So every year, that would go towards whether we specify it to the fire department, whether we specify it for policing contract, because we know that is gonna go up, we've seen that go up. How do we pay that? But this is protected, so that, and actually I figured it at 8% interest, sorry, not 7. If we took the interest off every year, it would take 10 years to build up to $2.5 million. And the first year, year 2, they would see $17,000 in interest. Third year, we'd see $34,000 in interest. Fourth year, we'd see $52,000. Fifth year would be 71. Sixth would be 90. Seventh would be about 111. Eighth would be 133. Ninth would be 155. And by the 10th year, it'd be 179 again. And then you would see the 200 after that.
How would the money be invested, or how do you say you're 700%, how do you invest, who's investing it?
That's where we'd have to hire out to investment just like anybody else, whether it's, I mean, we do the same thing with our money market, or not our money market, but our profit share program. So we'd have to work with a bank or a wealth management company to help us to do this. This is a different model. This is a change. But in this model, we're not, I mean, you could, let's say we build it up to, we get the fire policing built up, and we have another fund that's built up to 10,000, or 10 million. So we have $10 million put away for a street project. If the public voted that said, we're going to spend that whole $10 million on the street project, if you just took the interest off on a $10 million project, you would see about $511 taken off of everybody's special. If we used it, the whole fund, where they said we're going to use whatever's left in it out of that bucket to pay down, on a 20-year note, you'd see they pay down a $10 million street project to $436 a year over 20 years, or $711 over 10 years. If we didn't use that, we'd be looking at $1,200 to $1,500 a year in specials to pay for a $10 million street project. So a $20 million street project that we're looking at is going to cost us, could be specialed at $3,000 if you split it out evenly amongst everybody. Now we're dropping that down. It's saving, and it's a long term. It's not today, it's tomorrow and the next day.
But that would be maxing out our sales tax as well.
It would be maxing out our sales tax. So we're going to see sales tax going up over time. And I know sales tax is a hard thing.
How many cities in the state of North Dakota max out their sales tax?
None. We have several that are 8%, but none that are at 8.5%. But this is a different, JR, do you know of any city that would do something like this?
This plan?
Yeah.
No, I don't. There's a few that have 8% right there. I don't know. I'd have to look through all the sales taxes to know. North Dakota has a lazy one, is the easiest answer to say, and I'm sure cities have come up with other similar ways, but I can't say.
Right. And like I said, this is not a decision tonight. This is a decision for the future to decide. This is just the first step. This is just a draft, a working document per se. This is not an ordinance. And in order for a fund to be built, it would take an 80% vote of the Board of Commission. So you could never start a fund unless you had at least 4 out of the 5 that voted in favor of starting a X fund.
We have to accrue the 1.5 million in every fund?
Say that again?
You would have to accrue the 1.5 million
No.
in every fund?
Whatever, So, when we started it, maybe you're gonna put it into two funds, public safety and street repairs. And you say 1.5 in each. Once it hits those once both of them are funded to 1.5, unless there was another fund, it would go into just the big pot. But we still couldn't touch it. In order to set up another sub-fund, such as a pool or whatever, 4 commissioners would have to vote in favor of it, and then that separate sub-fund would be built to a dollar amount that would be set by the commission. If we found out that we didn't have enough in $1.5 million for public safety, we could say, well, now by ordinance, we're going to change it, so we're putting in $2.5 million into there instead of 1.5. Once that has changed, we can't take it back.
I don't want to max out our sales tax. That means we're taking everything away from any other place that might want to potentially do a sales tax thing. We're maxed. That's tough for me to swallow. Just my thought of it. 'Cause I think the fire department's here for a reason, and that would completely squash that.
It won't though, because they're getting, if it was set up here, they would still be getting it.
I haven't had very good feedback about it from business owners or residents.
Probably the one downfall on that too is, I understand getting it, but it's the time frame. You're talking 5 years minimum too, so, and, I just need to learn more about it, talk to more people, I guess. I'm not against it, but I just would like to see how it would, just find out a few more things.
Like I said, this is just throwing it out there.
Well, when I was talking to some people about it, I said it's a draft. We can tweak things, we can do a lot.
It's meant to be protected for the people of the community. It's not meant that the commission is making another decision on this funds. It's meant to protect, it's meant to protect us, because I know, Jason, you don't want another sales tax, but where else are we going to get money?
Would this go to a vote?
This would go to a vote. This is not, technically we could, but I don't feel that
without a vote, I would never.
I think the idea is good. I think the intentions are good. The same thing as Nicole said, the feedback I've been getting has not been positive.
Why? Did he say why?
The one, like I mentioned, we're the only town that's maxing out our sales tax. The big cities aren't even doing that, which would also prevent any other people that might want to go after a partial tax. They wouldn't have that ability.
Who else would go after the partial tax, though? The fire department is built into this, that's what I'm saying.
No, I understand that.
So thank you for taking our time. We met as an officers group and decided that we're trying to build a new building, and it's going to cost us quite a significant amount of money. And over 30 years of a loan, there's lots of different projects and different things that can come up, and we don't want to be at the mercy of, at some time, there's just not money available to us. So our proposal is
what we're initially thinking is, and before you even came up with this, I guess, is that we would ask for a half-cent sales tax, and after the building is paid off, it's sunset to a quarter-cent sales tax for operating expenses. Mostly, like Steve said, the building is expensive, yes, we know that, but also take our main pumper truck. 2019, we bought that for $375,000. Today it'd be minimum $500,000, probably $750,000 almost. So we just don't want to be always coming to you guys needing to ask for money, that high dollar money actually.
So So the majority of our calls are on an interstate anyways, right? So the sales tax is going to be paid by the folks that we're serving. So it makes more sense in that way that instead of going and asking for money for our building, our pumper trucks, our next thing that we need off of somebody, off of a referendum or a property tax, it just makes sense that it would go off of the sales tax, and we would only be needing a half a cent. And once that building is paid for, we go down to that quarter cent just for operating expenses.
And what is the protection timeline on how long it would take to pay off the building?
Well, I mean, it would be set up on most likely a 30-year loan through Bank of North Dakota, but at our projections, hopefully that 20, 25-year time period, if not sooner. But it all depends, you can't guarantee that. We pay it off as soon as we can because why pay interest?
It gives us the opportunity to save for our next expenditures too, so we can have our own independent budget for what we need, versus all of a sudden something happening, and this fund is great, but we need an $800,000 truck. And it just, sometimes they just pop up. We have a truck that's leaking right now that we need to get fixed, right? So if we had our own fund that we could shore up funds just for us,
yeah, it would give us more financial security as the department, I guess. Because, I guess unless there's a way of really stating that we not necessarily have a certain dollar amount guaranteed every year, but a certain amount of it, because, like you said, if there's an amount in the public safety fund, which, yeah, you put it great, but if the sheriff's department needs more, or something else comes up, well, who's more priority? And I don't know.
I mean, and the fund could say fire department fund.
Yeah.
You have to remember that sales tax fluctuates as well. So just because we're generating X amount of dollars, the way that this is set up is that you have an even. It doesn't have to be 1%. It could be 0.5%. It could be whatever. But
we're still at the mercy of that overall heading fund, and we would like to have an independent fund. So I think we're...
Does that mean that you guys want to take over all expenditures?
I mean, as of right now, the city gives us $10,000 per year. All of our operating expenses are $70,000 a year, so we're pretty much operating on our own anyways.
But the city pays for the insurance, we pay for your phone, we pay for fuel, we pay for those things too. So I'm asking, are you taking over those as well?
And that's to be in a discussion. We have not started this necessarily, this is how we feel on it now, and so more dialogue needs to be talked about. I mean, as you said, nothing's happening tonight. We can't do anything tonight on our end. That's how we feel right now, and a few small worries we have going, jumping into it, but, with more discussion,
If we do that fund and we build it out, you guys will have to wait at least 7 years to be able to get a new building. What's that going to cost?
Correct. We would be stuck waiting until that time. In the meantime, if we could move on building a building, our building is already set, and we could be bringing another business into town.
So sales tax is generated on sales, right? And our sales come from small businesses in town. So you increase your sales tax, it pushes people to shop elsewhere because there's lower sales tax. And it's really, really hard, just from my personal experience, it is hard getting a business off the ground in this town. And you want to pay your employees really well, but if you push them out the door, that's going to close the businesses back down, and there won't be any sales tax accumulated, and it's going to be a big loss. So there has to be a balance to this somehow. Otherwise, you're going to go one way or the other, and it's not going to be a good outcome on that.
And the hope is with this is that we could drop or my hope with it is that we can drop our property taxes. But that's not, it all depends on where it goes. And
if we want to build a new fire department, though, that money has to come from somewhere, correct? So whether it's property taxes or sales taxes, we assume sales tax is the best way to go because, again, 50% of our calls are on that interstate, 50% of the traffic that comes through here doesn't live here, right? They're spending the sales tax money, ebbs and flow.
But you guys want a new building, we need, people want new streets, people want a pool. There's all these things, and that is the issue, and that's what I'm looking at when I said this, is how do we fund all of these things down the road?
I think Nicole has a good point too, though, that I didn't even think of, is you have the small town businesses in town, which we all know that you're gonna pay more to get it local than you are to go to the big city. Now I can go to the big city and I'm gonna pay less sales tax.
I've been in business for over 25 years, and I don't think I've had one person say that the sales tax was too high when they paid their bill. That's just my, I don't think people realize it as much as they do property taxes or specials. And the reality is, if they go to Fargo, they're still gonna probably pay 7%. You drive to Fargo, for 1%. Well, I'm not saying that I'm supporting this, but I'm saying is, the reality is, from my business standpoint, I don't think as many people just, it's not as big a tax as like property tax and things like that.
I guess my point is I think we should let the citizens decide as far as if they feel they should have a new fire department. And if they say, no, I don't want that sales tax, then good, I don't want the 8.5.
And that's what we're here today for, is we want to start the petition, we want to get it rolling, we want to get it on the November ballot and let the citizens decide.
And you guys have the right to get it on the ballot. If you want to go out and petition, you have to have X amount to get it on the ballot from residents of Hillsboro. It'd be, JR would have the numbers, but there's a certain amount. Casey would have the numbers as well. Between the two. Yeah, would have the percentage for sure. Casey would have the numbers, but you guys can do that at any point.
But then you're also, one of the things we were just talking about was the highest sales tax. Well, you're still gonna get it regardless.
Right. Well, you're getting 8 compared to 8.5. And you're letting the citizen, so if we move forward with this too,
Sooner than later.
Yeah.
It's different.
I feel like we're stepping on each other's toes if we're both going for it.
And I get that, and that's why I'm trying, when I knew that they were coming, this was not something I wanted to bring out in the next year, but it pushed me to do it because you guys are looking at, to say that this is another option that maybe we should look at.
So then we are kind of competing with them.
No, it's not us competing against them, it's, this is an option. This is an option.
Just sounded like we felt like we need to get it out there before they get theirs out there.
Well, I think his point was that you wanted to get that other option out there to
So if you looked at this, Jason, this is specifically set up so that the fire department was included in on this.
And I understand that. And like I said, I think it has good intentions, but I don't want to step on their feet. I'd like to see if they get the support for their fire hall before.
You have the same thing, I think, on the swimming pool side. You're looking at a way to fund too, so that's another half.
And that's another, that they looked at sales tax. So how do you, that's why I said, how do you fund?
I get my point. I like it being separated, not say, here we have 4 items as a city that we might put into the bucket. We can put it to the community. Does the community want a new fire hall? Yes, no. Does the community want a new pool? Here's what the sales tax is going to be. Yes, no. I guess it's more that being able to separate them out into one individual and let the citizens decide.
And how does it come down to the fact when we go to put in streets and we need $20 million from the residents?
It's part of life. The other communities have done it.
They have, but this is just putting this option out there as another way.
And I totally get you. I do, Levi. We're also then, if we're looking at doing the streets, we're putting that off 10 years, and what's that going to cost? It's going to cost more than what we just made.
Granted, this should have been done 20 years ago, but we can't go back.
Yeah, no, that's just my feelings. Like I said, I don't think it has bad intentions at all, Levi.
I think it started the conversation, though, and that's what we need to have.
Absolutely.
The question I do have for you as a fire department though, is you're asking the residents of Hillsboro to pay for the tax of a fire department. That doesn't include...
Yes and no. I mean, same with any proposal for a sales tax here, there are certain members of the community that pay that, but how many people stop at Casey's and Cemex? I am not a resident of Hillsboro. I do a lot of shopping in town, so I would then help pay for it also. So we serve a large area.
My question is, if you don't get this, how are you gonna pay for it?
We have to look at another avenue. This is our what's on our plate right now.
Because how currently we give you money, you guys do fundraising, have you looked at a fire district?
We've looked at many different things, but you bring up a good point. I mean, we do a lot of fundraising, and if we're gonna buy, a $3.5 million building, we don't wanna fundraise our hearts out for 30 years, right? We just don't wanna do it. We appreciate all the support we get from the communities, from the businesses, really appreciate it. We don't wanna just blood, sweat, and tears every year, right, for 30 years. So the sales tax is an avenue where we can coexist with that fundraising, right, for the things that we need. So if this should not pass at the November ballot, then yeah, we'd have to come back to you all and come up with a different decision. We would have to maybe go after property taxes or a referendum or something.
Is the fire department only dependent, like, for services in Hillsboro, or do you guys do throughout county?
No, so we are a city department, so you guys pay us $10,000 a year plus some extras, fuel and all that. And then we contract with townships in our district, I believe it's 6 townships. And so currently, they are allowed to levy 1 month of fire protection. I mean, it adds up to
2,000 to 4,000.
Yeah, per township. Some of them are 500, some are, everyone pays 4,000 or something like that, but, so it doesn't equate to huge. Yeah.
I've got $7,000 operating budget. How much do you guys have that you get from the city, from these mills, from the townships? You must be quite short.
Yeah, so between the city budget and the townships, we're
16,000.
Yeah, 16,000 is what we make.
And everything else we fundraise right now.
You guys are phenomenal. That's pretty good fundraising. Pat yourself on the back.
So our current state of our fire department is great. We have no outstanding debts. We worked through everything.
We have fair lift trucks, one more that really needs to be updated, but for the most part, we're pretty well updated. We just got some money from Vets Club and EDC Hillsboro for years, so we're good.
So really, we just want your permission to go after the petition, see if we can get signatures and get the support of the community.
Like I said, I don't think you need our permission or blessing on it. You guys can do that at any point.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sure we'll do it. Thank you.
The audit is done, and you guys should have that. I'd forward it on to all of you. Jack, wasn't it?
Yep. It's on the website link too.
What is?
Yep.
Okay.
Over to government. And it should say ideally if you do.
It is a pretty long document, but the biggest thing that you guys come up on is down at the bottom with the areas that they had stated, or in the letter, they also stated it, of what we need to work on, and I think we've started on some of those. One of them is segregation of duties, which is hard for us, and I think I mentioned that before. Hard to segregate duties when we only have 3 people in office, unless you guys want to have more. Secondly, preparation of financial statements. And we have been working on those and doing a better job, and I think that will definitely help us in the future. Part of that is the internal control on preparing the list of items that we have in our inventory, so we know an accurate disposal there. And these have been on our audits for years, if you go back and look. Another weakness is our journal entries were not adjusted during any of these times, so there was not adjustments in it, which I know Casey has changed that. Since that has happened, we've already made. Same thing with the inadequate bank reconciliations. Those were not done during 2022, or all the way up to 2022, which she's gotten those caught up, so we shouldn't see that on the 23 budget, or the 23 audit. And then the capital assets record, that was another thing that we've started on that process, so we're working on those, and so that one's been on many years. And so we should be able to see that come off. But he had said we'll probably see 2022-001, the segregation of duties and preparation of financial statements on every audit that we ever have. But the other 3 areas, we're doing better, and we're working our way through those. So that's commendable to Casey in getting things fixed. We do need to either accept or deny this so that it can move through on the processes, correct? So he said, yep.
I think all in all, it's a pretty good audit,
Yep.
Need a motion to accept?
We do, yep.
I'll make the motion to accept.
Jason makes the motion to accept. Is there a second? Dave seconds. Any other discussion? The biggest thing that you guys can see is there was no fraud or anything that they picked up on, so.
That's a good thing.
Paul?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And a yes for me. Motion carries. Next item is the 24 public library budget proposal. We have paid for that in the past. Comes out of sales tax, if I remember right.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Paul. Is there any other discussion? Dave?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Motion carries. And a yes for me. Motion carries. Lodging tax grant application. JR, did that one come through lodging tax yet?
Yes, and let me pull that up. In short, lodging tax met, I believe it was last week Wednesday, if not the Wednesday prior. We discussed the one grant that we received because we submitted more proposals for grants, and Shredder County Historical Society was the sole submitter. They're currently doing their windows, fascia, trim, you name it. And I believe their total submission request was $2,500.
Yeah.
So after lodging tax met, then we're the only ones, we have money to spend. I think we're sitting on at least 10,000, might be a little higher than that now. Lodging tax committee's recommendation is to approve that grant request of $2,500 for interest advisory board, so you guys have to confirm actually using the funds.
Great. I just wanted to make sure you guys met and...
Yep, we did all the stuff. So,
do we have a recommendation?
I don't have it, I'm just like,
I'll make a motion that we approve this with the grant request for $2,500.
Moved by Paul, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jason. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Dave? Yes. Paul?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Nicole?
I'll abstain, I'm on the committee.
And a yes for me, motion carries. Next item is the Hillsboro Days items. We have a special permit for the
A&R bar.
A&R bar for Friday and Saturday evening. And is there requesting for insurance, or is that separate?
That's separate.
Okay.
Yep.
And they are doing the dance part of it, is that correct, JR?
yes, based on the HBA meeting from also Wednesday or two ago, they will be serving main street dance Saturday.
You also have something here Friday, though.
Friday.
Yep, they want to put up the bar on the north side of the caboose for Friday night for the car show.
This I know nothing of.
Sarah requested that out of
This I know nothing of.
put it on the same application.
No, it's still in the same spot, right? It's not close. But we usually have, HBA usually have one bar in there.
Gotcha.
Try to keep it that way.
So with that being it's more open, do we need to have it, are we gonna have the fence off then
So
for Friday night?
I guess, how did they draw it up on the application? Did they draw a map of what they intend to do, or?
They
In
asked.
short, I believe,
Yeah, there's a map.
generally, the alcohol is sold there, you have to fence it out so no minors can get to where the alcohol is sold.
Yep, absolutely.
And that would be my heavy recommendation.
But they are giving that, but they have been, I think that they have the capped that. Haven't they been letting them take out alcohol? And
One
that's,
thing to take the alcohol out, it's under to have the alcohol sold and served.
Okay.
That's the fine line difference. B&R, that's what they're doing now. That's this request.
So they have it designated on, they just have it next to the caboose, they don't have anything else. Because on Saturday, during the dance, that's all fenced off, correct?
Yep.
So we could approve that portion of it, the other one it doesn't say.
Or if you approve that, maybe just the caveat of the motion that we have to fence that area off as well, but whatever you'd like to do, but.
say we just have to fence off the area where they have the alcohol and they could walk out just like they would the.
If you walk out, still that's just fine, but just, you can't have minors going up to the bar, and it has to be designated. Just like when you go to the restaurant or fall out, you can't have minors going to the bar. Same as
We had done
some type of fencing.
Yeah, they probably didn't know they needed fencing.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve it, but they have to, with the note that they have to have fencing, they have to have the bar fenced off, so.
Okay. Moved by Paul, is there a second? No, second. Second by Dave, is there any other discussion? Approved with the contingents that they do have Saturday, or Friday night fenced off, where they'll be serving from around the bar caboose. Correct.
We'll contact her about that. Okay.
Is there any other discussion? Paul?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Any yes for me? Motion carries. Insurance for the ads, I assume that would be for the HBA.
That is for HBA. To speak on that, the city has approved it for years. I actually don't even know what happened, so I believe you remember from last year.
I wasn't here last year.
We do a something, HBA is covered for the dance. I know we had it.
I'll
Does
figure
it
it out.
also include the tractor pull, or do they have a separate?
They have a separate one.
They have a separate one.
Okay.
Which I assume we maybe should check into to see if they are doing.
I'm sure they'll come and ask.
Okay. The only one that I guess they'd ask, I know HBA hasn't asked at least for the last few years, it's just a rider on the policy to have the
Right.
extra.
Yep.
And so it's just an motion to approve to allow that as well.
Do I have a motion for that?
Make a motion.
Paul makes a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jason, any other discussion? Paul?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Nicole?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
A yes for me.
Just as a point of clarity, I should have said the city puts it on their insurance, each basically pays for it.
Right. Last item on the agenda for new business is summer hours for the office. They'd like to change from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And then 8 a.m. to noon on Fridays, and I assume you still want the Wednesdays closed.
Preferably. I did need to clarify, I didn't realize it was 7 to 4:30 last summer. So instead, 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. with only a half-hour lunch break rather than a full hour lunch break.
Yeah, that's right.
Is what they actually did last year, so.
That sounds right. So same as we've done in years past.
What are you gonna do on Friday afternoons?
Nap? I don't know. I'll find something to do.
Is there any dispute? Is there, I'll make the motion. Is there a second? Second?
Second for the summer hours for the office? Are you right back?
Is it still okay with Wednesday afternoons off too, or that's?
Well, we close, it's not off, we close the office to get work done. Yep. I believe this is the same schedule as what the county employees, or majority of the county employees at the courthouse do for summer as well.
Yeah, I think Memorial Day, what is it? Labor Day in the courthouses.
I don't even know.
I think the courthouse moves to summer, don't they?
Yep.
Highway department doesn't work at all on Fridays.
Wow.
Really?
No.
They do
Is that just
4
summer or is that?
4/10s during the summer, from April to October.
Didn't know that.
Which is different than construction business.
Yeah.
You don't accomplish much in 8 hours. That's a good on the field. 8 hours a day.
Do we have a second? Second by Nicole, moved by Dave. Is there any other discussion? Jason?
I get torn on it, just because I hear people saying that, you know, when you're closing in the afternoon and stuff, that there's a couple of days that they're not open. So,
I haven't heard anything, so.
Yeah. I'll say yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Nicole?
Yes.
And a yes for me. Motion carries. The 2 applicants that we were going to interview tonight, I know that they weren't able to make it. You guys have some availabilities to look at to interview those other 2?
I'm free on time, so you can just have to name the guys that were.
Nothing to do, it's like crazy. Because you're not in the plan, you know, things will be busy, so it works.
I'm more free next week, so.
Next, what are you looking at? Next week?
Probably next week. Evenings work best after 4:30, 5:30.
6:30.
Just because you got to talk after 5:30.
No, it's hard to get out of there by 5:30. I just found out tonight. I'm walking in at 5:30.
I'll see what I can do. Is there any days next week that don't work? I know Wednesday.
Monday probably won't work.
I'm probably pretty much all week. I work Monday through
Memorial Day
Thursday.
on Monday.
That is Memorial Day, so that won't work.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm not.
Okay, I will try to see what we can do.
I'm open Tuesday.
If you guys are okay with me not being there, I'm okay with whatever you guys set up. Trust your opinions.
You go out of town next week?
What's that?
You out of town next week?
No, I'm working
Oh,
Monday through Thursday. Yeah. let you know if I can make something work.
Anything else for the good of the order? The only one that we have left to talk is Cole.
I thought we were, Cole, Casey. Cole, we could stick around for Sunday. We've got Subway, so.
I was told a lot more fire department were supposed to show up, and then visitors for the delinquent bill, so it ended up being that way, and that's okay.
Make a motion to adjourn, that's
I'll second it.
Did we make a decision on that?
No, we didn't make a
Oh, no, we didn't.
on this, so. Yep.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's all I got.
How much do they want for the ad?
$998.
Which we can dig it out of.
What's HEDC's look like?
That's what I was just gonna say, did HEDC pay for this prior by chance, or?
I think there's
On
no,
the bottom.
Is,
is HEDC recognized on that? Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
So maybe it was HEDC.
I think so, because I remember back, is that 2016? That was probably.
It was when Melissa was still, Trail County EDC, so.
And I was definitely not a fan, and I remember us doing that, I know it was not at all.
As soon as we get started to go over that, they want to get started on it.
what I want to do is, we can, our time as director of HEDC, hold it up, get a great thoughts on that at the next meeting, and see if they want to get a sponsorship. That's right. Stuff they can do, so.
That's good.
I think that would waste the taxpayer expense.
And they said it
Glad
would
you said that, I was
be,
gonna recommend that.
So it's exactly what we do.
if there's updated, if there's updated pictures or logos or anything, they,
Not to get anything to it,
so they're happy to, they have a number.
All right, then I have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? I'll second it again. Probably moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.